When I first felt your hands wrap around mine, I knew the meaning of belonging. The world, with all its noise and distance, seemed to fade into a gentle hush, as if time itself bent to witness our touch. Your hands spoke a language no voice could ever translate, a quiet rhythm that matched the beat beneath my ribs. In their warmth, I discovered a universe that didn't need stars or moons, only the soft pulse of your life near mine. I remember the first time they trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sacred weight of love shared without words. In that trembling, I saw devotion. In that stillness, I felt eternity. My heart found its refuge there, beneath your palms, where promises breathe without being spoken. Every line of your skin is a path leading me home, every vein a river carrying me toward peace. I rest there, not as a queen of land or name, but as a woman who found in your hands the truest kingdom she ever longed to rule, one built of tenderness, trust, and unbroken quiet love. Your hands have become the map of my faith, guiding me when the world grows uncertain. I trace the lines that time may one day soften and see stories written not in ink but in kindness. Each curve reminds me of nights when you held my worries until they dissolved like salt in the sea of your patience. You never needed to speak much. Your fingers would brush a lock of hair from my face, and suddenly, everything harsh in the world would feel like it could be rewritten into gentleness. I've come to believe your hands carry the memory of every moment they've held me. Each heartbeat, each tremor of hope, each quiet surrender. They know my silences better than words ever could, and sometimes, I think they breathe when they touch me. I have walked through gardens and palaces, touched silk and marble, yet nothing compares to the human miracle of your touch. In their quiet warmth lies a sanctuary, a holy ground where my heart kneels and calls your name with awe and gratitude. When I dream, your hands reach through the fog of sleep, gathering my scattered thoughts like petals fallen from a trembling rose. You hold them delicately, as though afraid to crush the fragile whispers that bloom between us. Your hands are where my thoughts find meaning again. They remind me that love isn't grand gestures or golden vows. It's this gentle constancy, this promise in motion. Sometimes, when the night grows restless, I imagine your fingers tracing my heartbeat, mapping its uneven rhythm, and adjusting it back to calm. The tenderness there feels infinite, as if the universe itself had molded your touch for me. I could wander 1,000 dreams, yet all of them would lead back to the warmth of your palms. Even the stars seem envious of their glow, for in your hands, I see light that doesn't fade with dawn. They have held my joy and sorrow alike, carrying both with grace, never faltering. I think heaven, if it exists, must be shaped like your hands, soft, patient, eternal, and impossibly kind. Sometimes, I wonder if your hands remember the first time they brushed mine. The trembling air, the quiet gasp of surprise, the hush that fell between our souls. That moment planted roots deeper than any vow could, and from it, love grew unhurried, unshaken. Your hands have built more than touch, they've built trust. They've painted courage across my fears, stitched calm into the seams of my restless nights. When the world weighs heavy, I look for them instinctively, as though my body knows before my mind does that peace resides there. Each time your fingers entwine with mine, it feels as though something ancient awakens, an echo of a promise older than words. And when they release me, they never really let go. Their warmth lingers, weaving through the threads of my skin like a secret the heart refuses to forget. Your hands have shaped the woman I've become, steady, brave, alive with meaning. They don't simply hold me, they carry the entire language of our love. There is a gentleness in your touch that unravels the walls I built long before I knew you. When your fingers graze my cheek, I remember what it means to be seen. Not as a crown, not as a name, but as a heartbeat trembling beneath fragile skin. Your hands speak a truth that no title could grant me. They remind me that love, at its purest, is an act of surrender disguised as grace. When they hold mine, it's as though the past forgives itself, and the future softens its edges. I could live 1,000 years within that small eternity of your touch, each second blooming into something infinite. Even when you are far, the ghost of your hands lingers like sunlight on my shoulders, whispering that I am not alone. You taught me that the hands that can build also know how to heal, and yours have done both, constructing a world where my soul feels understood, cherished, and utterly at peace. I think often of how your hands look in the morning light, half awake, reaching for mine before thought even arrives. There's something unguarded in that instinct, a quiet claiming that feels more intimate than any word. Your hands don't just hold me, they remember me. They know the shape of my laughter, the weight of my sadness, the quiet curve of my hope. In their hold, I cease to be divided between who I must be and who I am with you. I am simply human, breathing, loved. There's a rhythm in how your thumb brushes over my knuckles, as though marking time by the song of our connection. Sometimes I wonder if your hands know how deeply they have anchored me, how every heartbeat I own beats a little steadier because they exist. When I imagine the world without them, it feels empty, uninhabited, like a palace without warmth. Your hands have turned even silence into something sacred. Nights without your touch feel like unfinished sentences. The air grows cold, and I find myself tracing the ghost of your fingers against my palm, remembering how they feel, solid, certain, alive. They've held me through storms I could not name, through moments when I thought even love could not find its way back. But your hands always did. They've lifted me from doubt and cradled me in patience. Even in the distance, their memory wraps around me like a promise whispered in the dark. I think of how they cup my face, how their warmth spreads like dawn across the shadows of my thoughts. I could write 1,000 poems about them and still fall short of what they mean to me. They're more than flesh. They're history, future, and the delicate present that binds both. They are the proof that love, when true, needs no language. It breathes through touch, through faith, through the knowing that your hands are my eternal home. Your hands remind me that love isn't loud, it's steady, patient, and endlessly kind. They have never grasped too tightly, never demanded, only offered. In their gentleness, I've learned what strength truly is. When the world demands that I wear composure, your hands let me crumble, reminding me that vulnerability is its own kind of royalty. They have written invisible poems across my skin, verses that only my heart can read. Each time they hold mine, I feel history pause and the universe tilt slightly closer. They've turned ordinary moments into miracles, mundane hours into eternity. I think sometimes they hold the memory of our first goodbye, trembling softly as though the earth itself mourned our parting. Yet they also carry reunion in every touch, restoring what distance tries to steal. Your hands have made my life a softer place, reshaping my fears into courage. When I am lost, I need only close my eyes, and their warmth will guide me home. I have watched your hands work, steady, capable, shaping the world with quiet intention. Whether you're building, writing, or reaching, they always move with meaning, never wasted, never uncertain. I love the silence they carry, the assurance of purpose. When they hold me, it's that same calm that steadies my soul. You may never realize how deeply they speak to me, how their touch writes stories beneath my skin, stories of belonging, trust, and shared existence. I've touched beauty before, in art and in light, but nothing compares to the way your hands hold me, like I'm both fragile and infinite. They have the power to make me feel everything and nothing all at once, to still my racing heart, while awakening every dream I've ever hidden. If love had a shape, it would look like the space your fingers leave between mine, that sacred smallness where everything feels possible. Sometimes I trace the outline of your fingers in memory, counting them like prayer beads. Each one carries a part of my story. The laughter you caught, the tears you wiped away, the promises you never let fade. Your hands have weathered my storms without complaint, holding steady even when I couldn't. They remind me that love isn't about perfection, but persistence. I see strength in their lines, not the kind that conquers, but the kind that endures. When they rest on my back, I feel my pulse align with yours. When they lift my chin, I remember who I am beyond duty, beyond fear. In their warmth, the world narrows to something bearable, something sacred. I've seen stars fall, waves break, seasons fade, yet your hands remain my constant, a harbor untouched by time. If I could, I would spend a lifetime memorizing every curve, every touch, because within them lives the quiet truth. I was always meant to find my home there. Your hands have taught me the beauty of stillness. When they hold mine, I no longer chase what lies ahead or mourn what's been lost. I simply exist, present, whole, enough. They've turned moments into eternity, breaths into symphonies. I think of how they tremble slightly when emotion overwhelms, how even their strength bows to tenderness. Those small tremors make them human, and in that humanity I find my peace. You don't know how much I love watching them move, how they lift, mend, soothe, and speak without sound. They've held flowers, dreams, and me, all with the same care. In your hands, I've learned the secret of belonging. It's not possession, but presence. They don't bind me, they free me. They remind me that love can be gentle and still hold the power to move mountains within the heart. Every time they touch me, they whisper a vow that no crown could ever equal. When I think of home, I no longer see walls or windows, I see your hands. They are the place I return to after every uncertainty. Their warmth becomes my shelter, their steadiness my guide. Even across miles, their memory travels like a heartbeat through time. Sometimes I hold my own palms and imagine yours resting there, the phantom weight of your affection reminding me that distance cannot diminish what is real. I think of how they've brushed tears from my cheeks, how they've lifted my chin in wordless reassurance. Those gestures speak louder than oaths. They are love's truest language. You've built safety in my heart without realizing it, layer by layer, each touch another brick in a home I never knew I needed. And now, when the night feels long and the world seems too vast, I remember home is not a place, it's your hands. It always has been. There's something eternal about the way your hands find mine, as though every lifetime we've ever lived converges in that moment. I sometimes imagine them reaching for me across centuries, through war and silence, through birth and farewell, never failing to find my grasp. Your hands are the thread connecting every version of who we've been, binding past and present with invisible grace. They've held me through laughter and through breaking, through the gentle and the wild. Even when they let go, they linger, leaving warmth that refuses to fade. I've seen them tremble in love, seen them steady in grief, and in both, they remain beautiful. Their touch reminds me that to love deeply is to live truthfully, to surrender and trust all at once. I no longer fear the unknown, for even in darkness, I can find them. Those hands that remember me when I forget myself, those hands that have never stopped coming home to mine. Your hands have written our story without ink, without pages, only with touch and memory. They've turned my heart into parchment, where every caress leaves a verse, every embrace an unfinished line waiting to be continued. You once held me beneath a sky full of fading light, and I remember thinking that if the sun never rose again, I'd still be safe in that moment. Your hands framed my face like they were tracing the shape of forever. There's something holy in the way they move, as if love itself borrowed them to show me what devotion feels like. When I close my eyes, I can still feel their warmth pulsing against my skin, promising that even if time breaks everything else, our touch, will endure. Your hands have become my scripture, my compass, my sanctuary. They don't need to hold tightly to keep me, they only need to exist, and I am already found. I sometimes wonder if your hands know the power they hold, the way they gather every scattered part of me without effort. When I falter, they lift. When I fear, they soothe. There's a rare kind of honesty in their touch, one that doesn't ask, doesn't demand, only gives. They've shaped my courage, molded my calm, written love into the very air I breathe. Even when we part, I carry their memory like a flame cupped in my palms, careful not to let it die. They've taught me that love doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just needs hands that stay. I've felt the world shift beneath me, yet when your fingers intertwine with mine, everything aligns again. You could hold the entire world, but you choose to hold me instead, And that choice, repeated in every moment, is the most beautiful truth I've ever known. If one day time steals everything, names, memories, even the sound of our laughter, I hope it spares the memory of your hands, for they are my first and final truth, the proof that love was real, that I once lived within its light. When all else fades, I will still feel the warmth of your palms resting against mine, the quiet pulse of our forever. You may not know it, but your hands have become the rhythm of my existence. They've written songs into my veins, turned ordinary breaths into prayers. If heaven exists, it will feel like this. The gentle press of your hand in mine, endless and serene. My heart has built its home within that touch, brick by invisible brick, until nothing remains outside it. So if I must name what love is, I will say simply it is your hands. It is the way they hold me like I belong nowhere else in the world.